Welcome back to the Open Wheel Offline League Season 5, Round 13. We are back in the States, this time on the short oval of New Hampshire, just the fourth oval this season. The back half of the season is pretty packed with ovals, as Tinkle McStinkle will be the first car to go out for Eventide Racing. We've never been to New Hampshire. The closest that we have been to in terms of how it's going to race is probably New Hampshire, which we raced at last season. So a little bit of slower laps, track just a little over 1 mile, but is very flat, as first lap for McStinkle is a 157.393. We are down to 27 cars this race, as broken in news, Nico Hulkenberg and Barbershop Haircut Racing did not make it to this race. And the team, unfortunately, after over 50 races, had to shut down. Just could not afford it. And that is quite sad, as we lost an entry. The Tinkle McStinkle will go to the top in his entry, the first one of today, and his average is a 158.373. In second to go, I should say. By the way, order is determined by reverse team entry points. So up next is the 94 of Dawa Tenzin. Did not race at Milwaukee last season, so first time he's ever raced on a track like this, with pretty much no banking. As he's going to come around to the line. This might actually be his first true short oval race. 159.645, so already quicker than McStinkle. Gonna have to see what his second lap is, as here he comes to the line. And it's going to be quicker, 160.404. So first lap in the 160s of the day, and first average in the 160s with an average of 160.025. That is going to put him on top right now. Up next, joined the season a little late, but has already caught up in points, is the number 7 of Carlos Huertas. This is truly his first short oval. His only other oval was Indy, which unfortunately ended prematurely. Qualifying went alright, qualified middle of the pack. But let's see what he has here today. So first lap going to be much quicker than what we saw from Tenzin, 164.788. So over 4.5 miles per hour quicker. Right now, this is going to be tracking well for the number 7, coming off his first podium at Monza. As second lap, unfortunately, going to be the first one of the day that we see go slower, but it's still 163.664. So his average is a 164.226, which will put him on top. Up next is the number 92 of Lawless Allen. Also his first true short oval. He did race at Motegi, but I don't know if that really counts as a short oval. Kind of races like one. And he did get a top 10 there. One of two top 10s on the season. The second one came from the Nürburgring, a sixth place finish there. As his first lap, not going to be too bad. 161.428, tracking to second, but still well off Huertez's lap. As through the final turn, and at the line it's just going to be a tick slower, 161.264. So an average of 161.346 is going to put the rookie in second. Up next, a driver that's had a pretty disappointing Season 5 campaign. It's the double zero of Glubler Lore. Just his whole team just has not gotten off to the same pace. Just ever. I mean, Season 4 was already struggling, it's gotten even worse. They're struggling a bit financially, so they had to sell off bits of the team. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the slower attempts that we see of the day. As first lap going to be a 160.370. That is currently tracking him to third, right in the middle. Drops well below 130 in turns 3 and 4, as to the line it's going to be a lot slower. 159.339 for an average of 159.855. That is unfortunately going to put him down in fourth. This is just a rough season for Glubler. Usually a top half driver contending for top 10 in points. But this time, he is not even in the leader circle. As up next will be his teammate, 77 of Stingray Rob. Gonna have to see what he has in the 77 car. On average, he's been better at qualifying than Glubler, but has raced a lot worse. Only has one top 10 on the season. The team only has two total top 10s. And Stingray's second at Michigan still holds on as their team best, as his first lap is going to be a 159.292. Unfortunately, that is not very quick and slower than his teammate, as right now that is tracking him to fifth out of six. And to the line, it's going to be slower this time. 158.603. That's an average of 158.948. And that will put him in fifth, behind teammate Globler and just a bit ahead of McStinkle. But the Magenta Trees having a rough qualifying here at New Hampshire as well. As up next is the 04 of David Malukas. Was very good at the ovals last season. That hasn't really shown it this season, and has generally struggled. Only two top 10s on the season. Finally got a second with a 10th place finish at Monza. Nothing really to write home about, but closer to the leader circle battle than what he was earlier in the season, as first lap is solid 162.445. Right now that is tracking him to second, but almost 2 miles per hour below Huertas, so looking for more time here. As second lap will be a, oh wow, 165.059. That is a huge jump. Fortunately, that's not going to unseat Huertas, but that is going to jump him up to second with a pretty big second lap. First one in the 165s today, but his average is just shy of 164. As up next, going to be sporting a new paint is the 37 of Miles Rowe, running a 5th third car. Right now, teammate McStinkle 7th out of 7. Got to be looking to go a little bit quicker in his new paint. He's gotten a good amount of top 10s recently and has punched his way into the leader circle, a space the team desperately needs to be in to earn money to stay alive. But unfortunately, this first lap is only going to be a 158.439, which currently tracks him to 7th out of 8. Just a little bit quicker than his teammate. Second lap, gonna have to see where it goes. Can't lose too much time, as it will drop to a 157.849, and that is going to be just a little bit slower than McStinkle. So Miles Rowe, new paint, but no newfound speed, as a 158.144 is all that they could get out of it. Up next is the 75 of Devlin DiFrancesco, his teammate David Malukas in second. He raced at Milwaukee back in season 1. Again, that's pretty much the closest comparison to this track. That one being the Milwaukee Mile and this one being the Magic Mile. As to the line, first lap is going to be 161.115. That's a lot of ones. And that will currently put him in 4th. It's going to be looking for a bit more speed on this lap. Drops below 130 in the turn. And to the line, it will be a bit quicker, 162.286. And that will put his average at a 161.701, which will put him in 3rd behind his teammate. So that's 9 cars down, 1/3 of the field already done and dusted. As up next is the number 18 of Robbie Lohr. See what kind of speed he has. This is already the final Ford entry. Ford has not had a good season. They just downgraded from 6 to 5 full-time cars as barbershop haircut racing folded. As first lap will be a 161.784. So right now tracking to third, just a bit ahead of DeFrancesco. Gonna have to see if the second lap is better. You can see the hands working in the cockpit. Gonna build the speed back up. Gonna go just a bit quicker, 162.155. And that is good enough to put the 18 car in third. Not gonna be the best Ford qualifier of the day. Maluka's gonna be a good bit quicker on speed. Currently just one spot ahead, but I feel like that spot will probably be filled in. Up next is 76 of Ethan Martz coming off his best result of the season in fourth place at Monza. He's been doing pretty well on the ovals this season. Yes, he did cause the big melee at Michigan, but he still was up at the front. Motegi was a top 10, Indy was a top 10. As first lap, gonna be pretty solid, 162.597. Right now, that is tracking him to third. Seems to be a pretty common place these guys are going to. As next lap gonna be a good bit slower, 161.299. So a good amount of speed lost there, over a mile per hour. That's gonna drop his average to 161.948, which is just a bit slower than Robbie. Gonna put him in fourth. Up next is P29 of Benjamin Peterson. Right now, his teammate is on the top of the chart. Mercedes has looked like the dominant engine this season. Honda's looked pretty good, but pretty much being supported by mainly the swindlers. Team Canada Dry has been middle of the pack. Magenta Trees, as mentioned earlier, has been struggling. But this team has looked pretty solid, as first lap going to be a 163.014. That's currently tracking him to third now. But closer to Malukas than he is to Robbie. Let's see what he can bring it home to. Second lap, gonna be better, 164.087. That's not enough to beat Malukas or his teammate Huertas. 163.551 is all he's got in it, which is good enough for third. Up next is V54 of Mahavir Raghunathan, who's been on a pretty good streak as of late. And although he's been frustrating to his old team, his new team is very happy to have him. Just got a new sponsor, CW NASCAR, on his side pod. Gonna have to see what he can do here. Teammate Tenzin down in 8th out of 12. As his first lap not going to be too hot, 160.850. The 160.850 would currently put him in 8th, a good bit ahead of teammate Tenzin on speed, but not in position. Second lap going to be a lot better, 162.031, so over a mile per hour gained. And that is going to put his speed at a 161.441, which will make him jump Lawless Allen and put himself into 7th. Up next is the first of the Viking racing cars, the number 99 of Brennan Hubbard. Had a very good qualifying at Monza, 6th place, but brought it home to a 26. Not even sure what happened. Didn't seem like he had any major issues, besides probably just a huge strategy blunder, and was never able to make the positions up like some of the other cars. As first lap, gonna be pretty good. 165.073. He's good on the ovals, and it's showing once again, as right now he is tracking the first, but can he hold on to it? Second lap gonna be just a smidge better, 165.109, but it doesn't matter, it's not the biggest improvement. It will still take him to the top with an average of 165.091. So a good run from the number 99. So over half the field is complete. Right now, Brennan Hubbard on top, but that is supposed to be your slower half of the field. So it's very unlikely he's going to be able to hang on to it. As up next is the 87 of Alessio Deletta. Also pretty known for being good on the ovals. Monza was in battle for the podium, but then just had too much speed in Lesmo's corner and went flying into the barrier, knocking him out of the top 10 in the championship. Looking for some redemption today. 164.228. That is just a little bit better than Huertas's average. And right now tracking to second, but not good enough for first place. Gonna come out of turns 3 and 4 now. And to the line, gonna go quicker. 164.561. So that is going to put his average at a 164.395. And that will put him in second. Best of his team so far. Up next is the first car from the Swindlers of the Immortals. She's been on a struggling last few weekends. Dorian Pin had a good amount of issues last season, and it seems like her good start to the season has started to fall apart. Another outside top 20 result at Monza. Also had one at the Nürburgring. Qualified not very well at Zandvoort as first lap a 165.611. That is by far the biggest so far, as that would put her in first by about half a second or half a mile per hour. But the second lap is going to be slower. 164.931. It is still good enough for first place. 165.271. But did lose a little bit of speed. But right now, she is on provisional pole. Alright, up next is the 47 of Lindsey Brewer. All of Banshees of Little Miami has been known to be pretty good on the ovals. Right now her team is 3rd, 4th, and 6th out of 16 cars, so not too bad. Lindsey Brewer not usually the best at qualifying, but can get it done in the race and move forward. So let's see what she has here. First lap is going to be a 163.035, which would currently put her in 7th. That'd be the lowest of her team. Sits just outside the top 10 in points. As second lap going to be a bit better. 163.854. That's going to make her average a 163.445. Not going to pass any of her teammates and will stay in 7th. Up next, we go to our final Toyota driver of the day, and that is the 64 of Ryan Preece, coming off his best result of the season at Monza, a second place, but still winless on the season. That's pretty disappointing for the team that was competing for the championship last season, was in the fight in season 3 and then won in season 2. But what can he do today, as he will have the best first lap of the day at 166 miles per hour flat. So 166 flat by far would put him in first. Now let's see if he can hold on to that pace. As yes, he will. He will go quicker, 166.405, and by far gonna be on top by about a mile per hour. So good speed from the 64 team. Priest has won on short ovals. He's won at Iowa last season and Richmond in season 3. Those, I believe, are his only oval wins in his career, but still, 2 wins is 2 wins. Up next is the number 24 of Chet Jordan. Also good on the ovals, good on the short ovals. He's won at Iowa too, although it was back in season 1. He got a podium last season there. Gonna have to see what kind of speed he has here, as first lap is gonna be even quicker than Priest's by a huge margin, 167.655. And that is easily gonna take him to the top. Gonna have to see what the second lap is. But that is a pretty optimistic start, as it will go 167.795. Finds just a little bit more speed out of it. But by far in first place with a 167.725 average. So Chet Jordan now on top out of 19 cars. Up next is one of your rookie of the season contenders, Justin Allgaier, just lost his rookie of the season points lead after a disappointing result at Monza. Could have been a win, but the strategy was not in his favor. Gonna have to see what he can do here. First lap, gonna be just a bit slower than Jordan, 167.493. Right now tracking to second, needs to find just a little bit more pace out of it. As for turns 3 and 4, this one is going to be a 168.158. That is a very good lap. And that is enough to unseat Chet Jordan's short reign on top. So 167.826 is now the mark to beat. First car to go into the 168s. Earlier we were talking about 165s. In just a couple cars, that margin doesn't mean much. That won't even put you on the first 2 rows. Up next is the number 90 of Guy Gagné. Right now, his teammate Brennan Hubbard sits 5th out of 20, so in the top 25%. Gonna have to see how he does here. Struggled at Motegi earlier in the season, despite qualifying well. So let's see what his pace is. First lap, 166.202. That is currently enough. That is actually 1,000th of a mile per hour slower than Ryan Preece's average. So we're going to have to see what this second lap is. And it's going to be just a bit slower, 165.956. So it's going to be behind Ryan Preece. Pretty close between those two cars, 166.079 average. Which will put him in 4th out of 21. Up next is your current Rookie of the Season leader. Gonna have to see what pace he has. Right now his team is qualified 7th, 8th, 10th, and 11th. So in the top upper half, but not necessarily on the front two rows. He did win at Michigan, but struggled at Motegi in qualifying, but still came back to a top 10. But unfortunately this lap is not good enough to contend for the first few rows at a 163.021. That lap is currently good enough to put him in 12th, so just below the top half. As second lap, gonna be just a bit slower at a 162.945. So that's going to be the only car in the 162 averages so far. And that will put him in 12th. So 12th out of 22, 5 cars remain. Up next is the number 9 of Connor Zilic. Has had a lot of pace in qualifying the last few races. Has had pace in the races, but has not been able to convert any of them to good points paying results, besides Zandvoort. Strategy error at Spa cost him the win. Issues at Nürburgring and Monza as a 167.758 is his first lap. This is currently good enough to try to contend for the top. 167.758 currently tracking to second. Is it better? Second lap, no. 167.559, but that was a pretty strong effort. 167.659. That will put him in third, just a bit behind Chet Jordan. Pretty tight up at the top. Allgaier still on top. No poles in his career so far. At his best qualifying at Monza, qualified second, only beaten by Marcus Armstrong. And then up next is his teammate in the final car for Viking Racing, the number 19 for Nolan Siegel. Coming off an 11th place finish, lost a lot of time on a late pit stop due to damage with contact from the 33 of Marcus Armstrong. As let's see what he has on his lap. First one is a 167.515. Currently not good enough, but if he has a big second lap, he could be in contention. But right now, looking at fourth place. Gonna come around turns 3 and 4 once again, and it will be just a bit slower. 167.346. Still a fairly solid effort for an average of 167.431, which will put him in fourth, just behind teammate Connor Zilic. Three cars remain. Up next, it's the car that has won the most poles this season. It's the 33 of Marcus Armstrong. He only has one win that he's converted from his 6 poles, and it was on the oval of Motegi. Could this be another one to get back into the championship fight? Finished 9th at Monza, gained some points in the championship. As first lap 168.010. This is the biggest first lap, so could he get it done? Gonna have to see what the second lap is. Is it good enough for pole? It's gonna be a bit slower. 167.508. And that drops his average to a 167.759, which is not good enough for pole. And Allgaier will stay on top. Armstrong stays just ahead of teammate Chet Jordan. But Allgaier only has 2 cars to sit through. Both of them teammates. Foster, no poles this season. Van Gisbergen, 4, I believe. I think he's converted all of his poles into a victory in some way or form. Two cars left to go. Let's see what the number 10 of Louis Foster has. Can he compete for the top? Trying to get back into this championship fight. First driver other than Van Gisbergen to have multiple wins on the season. One at Monza on a little bit of a fluke circumstance. So going to be trying to go for broke here to prove that it wasn't just random. 166.332. That does not look like it is going to be good enough, as that is currently tracking to 6th place. Off turns 3 and 4 and to the line, and it is going to be a 167.105, which will put his average at a 166.719, which will be only good enough for 6th. He is in the top 10. But not as good as teammate Justin Allgaier, who only has 1 car left to try to get his first pole, but it's the driver with the most poles in the Open Wheel Offline League history. Swindlers of the Immortals, by far the dominant team this season. They have won all but, I believe, 3 races through the first 12. So that's 9 wins already. Not as many poles, but well, they already have confirmed that they will get the pole today. Just which driver will it be? So up next is the number 1 of Shane Van Gisbergen, trying to unseat his rookie teammate for his first career pole. Second in the championship, his other teammate qualified 6th. Third in the championship is 2nd, and 4th in the championship is 5th. So let's see what kind of speed Van Gisbergen has here. First lap is a 167.943. That's in first, but he's going to have to hold it through a second lap to see if he can keep it through turns 3 and 4. And to the line, it is going to be slower on his second lap, a 167.655. And that means, with an average of 167.799, Swindlers of the Immortals have locked up the front row, but Justin Allgaier will get his first career pole here at New Hampshire. So 27 cars have qualified, and Justin Allgaier will be your pole sitter for tomorrow's race. And Shane Van Gisbergen, his teammate, going to be on the outside, looking to make up even more points in the championship. Comes in with a pretty large gap, but can he hold it? Swindlers of the Immortals, very good at this flat 1 mile tracks. Shane Van Gisbergen won both of the Milwaukee races that we have hosted, and Allgaier starts on the pole in this one. So yes, row 1 will be Justin Allgaier and Shane Van Gisbergen to his outside, and row 2 will be Sillyman Racing with the 33 Marcus Armstrong and the 24 of Chet Jordan. Row 3 is also one team on one row with Connor Zilich on the inside and then teammate Nolan Siegel on the outside. And then down to row 4, it's pretty classic. Row 4, Louis Foster in 7th and then Ryan Preece in 8th. Seen that a lot this season. Down to row 5, we have Guy Gagne in the number 90 and Dorian Pin in the 43. We've also seen Gagne in 9th a good amount of the time. Row 6 is the 99 of Brennan Hubbard, and then to his outside is Alessio Deletta. Down to row 7, we have Carlos Huertas in his first true short oval qualifying, and David Malukas. And then row 8 will be Benjamin Peterson and teammate Lindsey Brewer. The last of the Banshees of Little Miami cars, Francesco Draconi, qualified down in 17th, so inside row 9. And to his outside will be the 18 of Robbie Anderson, starting in 18th. Row 10 is Ethan Martz, and then to his outside will be Devlin DeFrancesco in the 75. And then down to row 11 will be Mahavir Raghunathan and Lawless Allen. Down to row 12, and we have Dawa Tenzin and Glubler Lore. And then row 13 is going to be Stingray Rob and Tinkle McStinkle. And then rounding out the field in row 14, new paint scheme, but no speed. It's going to be the 37 of Miles Rowe. It's going to be starting from the back of the field once again. So that is qualifying order for tomorrow's race. 100 laps here at New Hampshire. It's going to be a fun one. Going to be very competitive too, as qualifying just showed, with 4 cars within 1/10 of a mile per hour. So qualifying will be tomorrow, and I hope to see you